the main reason I wanted to get you onto was to get some feedback from the coalition about Albanese's trip to Beijing. We've got a bit of a readout on that meeting now from his recent press conference. He didn't even raise the Port of Darwin. Is that forgivable? Is he avoiding a key issue there, or should he just be pleased that China didn't decide to raise it with him?
Yeah, well, I think we don't begrudge the fact that the Prime Minister's gone to China. They're an important trading partner, but not at any cost. And there needs to be hard conversations had in these bilateral meetings. And it's not just about the Port of Darwin, it's about the fact that they had warships doing live fire exercises in Australian waters, and basically we've seen many statements made to them by them about their assertion in our region. And what we need to make sure is we assert our authority in saying that the peace and stability that we have in our region needs to remain. And this is where it's important not just to visit China, it's important to have a meeting with President Trump. Because that sends a strong message. They've been sending strong messages about their advancement of sending warships to Australia. You don't do that for any other reason other than to send a very strong signal to Australia about their capacity and capability. And if you look at where our spending on defence is at the moment, we don't have the capability or capacity at the moment to defend ourselves. We need strategic partners. And that's why I would have thought that instead of sending subtle messages through speeches back here in Australia before the Prime Minister left to the White House that he wasn't going to be subservient, we're not being subservient, we're being sensible. He's playing a risky game here. We do need the strategic partnership with the United States through AUKUS. He even had Penny Wong this week make a speech highlighting the threat, the rising threat that China poses in terms of their military escalation. Well, so one, wouldn't you raise that with them? And two, wouldn't you make sure that you have made a trip to see President Trump?
Well, yeah, he's got to get that meeting with Trump. But the Prime Minister says he did raise the issue of spy vessels and live firing with the Chinese. But listen to what he says about that meeting. He seems more eager to explain the Chinese position than Australia's objections. Have a look.
It was within international law. There was no breach of international law by China, but that we were concerned about the notice and the way that it happened, including the live fire exercises.
Yeah, so basically let us know next time.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they didn't sends the very strong signal to Australia that they were trying to assert. They were sending a very strong message that their capability and capacity. And I think that's important for Australia to appreciate and understand. And that's why the urgency of seeing President Trump and making sure that those strategic relationships are preserved and that we are going to have to put our shoulders to the wheel in terms of defence spending. I mean, President Trump was also very clear with NATO as far back as February about making sure that if they wanted to continue to have that strategic partnership with the United States, then everyone had to do their fair share. And I think the White House has been very clear to Australia that it was also about us doing our fair share in defence spending, that we have that capability and capacity. And we put a cheque down for $800 million for the first instalment on those Virginia class, which we should have. And we've made the right decision to get rid of those French submarines. So this is where you've got to be able to not only see the Chinese president, you've got to be able to make sure you continue to enrich that relationship with President Trump. The fact that he hasn't been able to secure a meeting is embarrassing at best.
David Littleproud, thanks so much for joining us from Thargomindah.